By the time Kyle Busch lifted that trophy, his brother wasn't watching. Not because he didn't care, not because he had somewhere else to be, but because in that moment, between those two brothers, something had broken so completely that even victory felt hollow. This is the story of two men who grew up sharing the same bedroom, the same dream, the same blood, and who nearly let a single night at Charlotte Motor Speedway erase all of it. But to understand how the rift happened, you have to go back to where it all began. Las Vegas, Nevada. Not the Strip, not the casinos. The garages. The dusty local tracks where a mechanic named Tom Busch spent his weekends turning wrenches and teaching his sons that speed was not a hobby, it was a language. Kurt was the firstborn, nearly 7 years older than his little brother Kyle. And in the Busch household, Kurt went first in everything. First to race, first to win, first to get noticed. Kurt was born on August 4th, 1978. Kyle followed on May 2nd, 1985. 7 years is a long gap between brothers. Long enough that by the time Kyle was watching Saturday morning cartoons, Kurt was already tearing up local tracks, already building a reputation, already becoming the driver everyone in Las Vegas talked about. Kyle didn't grow up racing his brother. He grew up chasing his shadow. And shadows, as any younger sibling will tell you, are very difficult to escape. Their father Tom worked as a mechanic and racer, and the blueprint was already written before either son could drive legally. Race, win, repeat. The only question was whether the younger brother could match what the older one had already built. Kurt made it to the NASCAR Cup Series first. He established himself fast, aggressive, talented, relentless. He won the Cup Series championship in 2004 before Kyle had even found his footing at the top level. Think about what that does to a younger brother. Your idol, your measuring stick, your competitor. He's already standing on the mountain you're still trying to climb. From Kyle's rookie season in 2005 until Kurt retired from full-time racing in 2022, the two faced off in hundreds of races. 17 years of two brothers on the same track, in the same field, racing under the same family name. To the outside world, it looked like NASCAR's version of royalty. Two champions, one bloodline. But behind that image was something far more complicated. A rivalry that didn't stay professional, and a night in Charlotte that turned a competition into a Cold War. May 2007. Charlotte Motor Speedway, the NASCAR All-Star Race. This was not a points race. There was no championship on the line. But there was $1 million waiting for the winner. And for two brothers who had grown up with nothing handed to them, $1 million was not symbolic. It was real. Kurt was in the number 2 Penske Racing Dodge. Kyle was in the 5 Hendrick Motorsports Chevrolet. Both cars near the front. The money within reach. And then it happened. Kyle claimed that after he moved past Jeff Burton, there was enough room to fit his car underneath Kurt's and go 3 wide down the front stretch. Kurt claimed there was no space for both of them, and so he didn't make way for his younger brother. Two brothers. Two completely different versions of the same moment. Neither one willing to yield, neither one willing to accept that the other had any right to that space. And when two immovable objects meet at 200 miles per hour, the result is not a conversation. Both cars were done. The $1 million went somewhere else. And the brothers walked away from that wreck without saying a single word to each other. The silence that followed was not the silence of two men cooling down. It was the silence of two men who had gone to war. They didn't talk for a year and a half. Kyle later said it plainly. I hated him. That is not the statement of a minor disagreement. That is the statement of someone whose trust had been shattered by the one person who was supposed to understand him better than anyone in the world. Here is what nobody outside that family fully understood. It was not just about the wreck. It was not just about the money. It was about everything that had been building for years. The comparison, the competition, the weight of always being the younger brother who had to prove he belonged at the same level. That crash was not just metal and speed. It was the physical expression of something that had been festering between them for a very long time. Their father, Tom, made a choice that may surprise you. He didn't try to fix it. He told them to figure it out themselves. No intervention, no forced sit-down. Two professional athletes left inside their own silence, left to decide whether the relationship was worth saving. For nearly a year, apparently, neither one believed it was. The breakthrough, when it finally came, did not arrive through a press conference or a dramatic moment on pit road. It came through a grandmother's dinner table. Kyle recalled it later. We finally came to somewhat of an agreement to disagree, and it was Grandma. She was like, "I want to have my birthday or Thanksgiving dinner, and I want you both to be there." So we were there together, and we had dinner with Grandma. That was kind of finally when we started talking again. A grandmother's dinner table did what a $1,000,000 race could not. It put them in the same room, forced them to breathe the same air, and reminded them that whatever existed between them on the track was smaller than what existed in that house, around that table, in the family that had made them both. But even that reunion had limits, because while they were technically speaking again, the wound had not fully closed. Kyle knew what had really happened to Charlotte. Kurt knew too. And for the next 10 years, a full decade, Kurt continued to place the blame on his younger brother. 10 years. Think about that. A decade of shared paddocks and family holidays with this unresolved thing sitting between them like a ghost at every table. Until one day, Kurt finally said what Kyle had always believed. He admitted that he had been the one who crashed his younger brother, that it had been his fault. When those words finally came, something shifted, not dramatically, not all at once, but something real changed between them. The way things only change when the truth has been spoken and there is nowhere left to hide from it. What followed was the friendship neither of them had been able to build during all those years of parallel success. The 2021 Quaker State 400 at Atlanta captured it perfectly. Kurt and Kyle ran a thrilling late-race duel, pushing each other to the absolute limit. At every check, Kurt crossed the line first. And rather than the old anger, rather than the old silence, the two brothers shared a moment of genuine camaraderie on the front stretch. Two men who had been through the worst of each other, standing side by side, grateful for exactly that. They became the only siblings in NASCAR history to each win at least 30 Cup Series races. Combined, they accumulated 277 wins across NASCAR's 3 National Series and 4 championships between them. Numbers that belong in a history book. Then came July 2022, Pocono Raceway. Kurt's final qualifying lap. His car lost rear traction, the tail spun out, and the back of the vehicle drilled the wall hard before snapping the front back into the barrier for a second impact. Doctors told him it was time to stop. "I know I am not 100% in my ability to go out and race at the top level," Kurt said at Las Vegas Motor Speedway, his home track, the place where everything had started. "My long-term health is priority number 1. And just like that, the era of two Busch brothers on the Cup Series grid was over. Kyle's tribute to his brother was immediate and emotional. The man who had once refused to speak to Kurt for over a year, the man who had used the word hatred to describe what he felt, now stood at the edge of his brother's career and felt only one thing: gratitude. And the particular ache of watching someone you love walk away from the thing you both gave your entire lives to. There is a version of this story where the 2007 All-Star race ends differently, where one brother gives an inch, where the cars don't touch, where there is no silence, no decade of blame, no grandmother's intervention. In that version, maybe they are always cordial. Maybe their relationship is always easier. But here is what that easier version would have cost them. Everything that made their reconciliation real. Because it is not the brothers who never fight who teach us something about brotherhood. It is the brothers who fight with everything they have, lose each other completely, and find their way back anyway. Kyle Busch was not changed by the rift with his brother in spite of surviving it. He was changed because of it. The silence taught him what he stood to lose. The dinner at Grandma's taught him to choose the relationship over the argument. And the friendship that came out the other side, where two men could race each other flat out and then stand on the front stretch and laugh about it. That friendship could only have been built by two people who had already survived the worst of each other. That is the family rift that changed Kyle Busch in ways racing never could. Not the crash, not the silence, but the long road back.